Number 1 is subheadings. This just, again, makes life easier for the examiner and shows to them that there is a good logical flow and structure to your essay. So subheadings, I would say, are recommended, but make sure that the subheadings you're using are short, precise, to the point, and that they are accurate. So for this one, the candidate has said neurobiological influences on psychology. It's precise, but it's not too long. If you just said neurobiology, that wouldn't be very helpful to the examiner. So keep it short, keep it sweet, but keep it, keep it precise and make sure it's actually explaining something. If not, don't include it. 2, again, definition of technical terms. So the candidate's chosen to use the term biological materiality, which is obviously not a word that we normally use, and then they've defined it. So just make sure whenever you're reading technical terms, you've defined them, and they've defined them very concisely. Point number 3, they've introduced their argument again in slightly different language, so they're not repeating themselves. So they're talking about free will. Belief are not within one's free will. Point number 4, they do a brief definition again, and they accompany this with a quote, which again is effective, and it shows where you're bringing in your research, where your research is from. 5, technical language. Again, it's explained well. It's good to use this sort of technical language because it shows your knowledge and your understanding. But if you don't define or explain it, then the examiner might as well think that you've just taken it from a paper without actually much understanding. But they've managed to do so in a very concise way. So I think that's a strong opening paragraph. Another paragraph that I've picked out from this essay that I thought was very strong, for a number of reasons. Strong linking language, so literally phrases like in addition, or however, or furthermore, or on the other hand. Again, structural, rhetorical devices that make it easier for your essay to flow in a logical way. 2, persuasive language. The use of the word must is authoritative, it's persuasive, and it makes the examiner think, yeah, okay, this is I am persuaded by this argument, rather than saying, ooh, I think this might be true. Saying psychology must consider, that's much stronger, right? 3rd point I wanted to bring up is they introduced the nature versus nurture debate, which isn't necessarily directly linked to the question, but it does show that their breadth of knowledge and their ability to bring in other parts of psychology to the question in an interesting and nuanced way. So you're taking 2 points off there, depth of knowledge and original thought. Number 4 is they've very briefly defined the nature and nurture debate rather than just name dropping it in there and never speaking about it again, but they've done this very briefly, so you don't want to spend too long on it. Point 5, they've used a more effective linking phrasing, so that, namely the word however. Point 6, they've used original thinking, or they've demonstrated their ability to think originally rather than just using previously written thoughts and articles. So they've said it's not a binary split. They've essentially used phrase in their own words. Point 7 is clear explanation of the reasoning. So again, slightly like defining the terms and explaining what the definitions mean. They've done this. They've done very clear but very concise explanations, so you're not wasting your words explaining and defining and sort of going into every single term that you mention. Rather, it just adds a sense of authority to your essay and that you know what you're talking about. So I'd really recommend doing that. And finally, at the end of this paragraph, they return back to the question. And again, the examiner is brought back to thinking, okay, the candidate is answering this question, and they have done so. And let's move on to the conclusion.